Welcome to Seize the Mains by Raj Malhotra's IS Academy. I'm Surbhi Sirdana and this is season 3 of our daily answer writing initiative. Today's topic is surrogacy laws in India. After discussing the question that we are taking the discussion for, you can go to our website rajisacademy.com and you can share your answers with us. If you click here at the mains answer writing tab, you will see the list of questions, and this question for today has been updated. In the comment section for this question, you can post your answers and get it evaluated by our team entirely free of cost. So let's see what is the question for today. The question is regarding surrogacy. I want you to look at the first statement first. Surrogacy is becoming an increasingly common family building option that offers a beacon of hope for people who are unable to carry a pregnancy on their own. So this is just a statement. This part is just a statement. This gives you information regarding a process called surrogacy. What are the surrogacy laws in India? Now this is your actual question. First part, what are the surrogacy laws? How far do you think the present laws do justice to the needs of society on one hand and personal rights on the other? So here you have to analyze the present law, that is the Surrogacy Act that is prevalent in India since 2021. You have to analyze that with respect to needs of society on one hand and personal rights on the other. So we will see that we will stepwise evaluate both of them. We will talk about society also, how the act benefits society or how it does not. We will talk about personal rights also, how the act benefits personal rights or how is it against it, and then we will conclude. Since your first statement is just information giving, so your first introduction, it has to be, first line of introduction has to be in relation to this. So since your first question is what are the surrogacy laws in India, let's start by defining surrogacy first, because again a unique word. So surrogacy is defined by law as a practice whereby one woman bears and gives birth to a child for an intending couple and intends to hand over the child to them after the birth as per the Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021. So this is the definition of surrogacy according to this act. Now mentioning this act will create a field for you to talk about this act. As you know that in the question you have to talk about what are the surrogacy laws in India. So here we'll talk about SRA or the Surrogacy Regulation Act of 2021. Since you've already named it, let's start by enumerating its features. So first of all, the law allows only altruistic surrogacy. Commercial surrogacy is banned in India. In altruistic surrogacy, whosoever is the surrogate mother, she has to be genetically related to the parents who are seeking a surrogate child from her. So genetic relation has to be there. So this is not at all commercial surrogacy. Secondly, the law further states that this surrogacy can be available only to infertile Indian married couples, so not to foreign couples or not to unmarried couples or singles or live-in partners, nothing like that, only to Indian married couples who one of the partners is infertile or both of them are infertile. The act says that surrogate should be herself married and should have her own child. At least one child should be there with the surrogate mother herself. Then there is an age limit on this altruistic surrogacy also, that the couple that is seeking for the surrogate child, the man cannot be less than 26 and more than 55 years, and the woman, the mother, the intending mother, cannot be less than 23 or more than 50 years. So further, Indian couples with biological or adopted children, they cannot seek surrogate children unless the first child, there is exception that the first child is physically challenged or or is suffering from a life-threatening disorder or fatal illness. Also, you can add to the first point that no commercial benefits are given, no money is being paid here to the surrogate mother. She does that entirely on altruistic basis and she is genetically related to the family. So this is not a business anymore. Commercial surrogacy is banned by this act. Now moving to the linkage point, your linkage point will introduce your body paragraph 2. This was your body paragraph 1 that followed just right after the introduction. Here we have talked about the first part of the question, that what are the surrogacy laws in India. Now let's go to the second part, that how far do you think the present laws do justice to the needs of society on one hand and personal rights on the other? Explain. So let's talk about personal rights first. So here you can start, you can again talk about that surrogacy is fraught with moral complexity. Yes, there is a lot of moral complexity around that. You know, people say that children are not products, women are not there just to produce children. You cannot pay a woman to bear a child and then just, you know, buy the child from her. This is entirely unethical. So yes, this line has to be added, that surrogacy is fraught with moral complexity. On the one hand, there are joyous parents who actually could not have a child for a very long time. Now they have their family complete, who never thought they'd be able to have their own biological children. And on the other hand, there are personal rights of women and how we as a society perceive women or view women. Hence, the following arguments can be raised in favor of personal rights. First of all, the law bans commercial surrogacy. So there were women who were intending to, you know, be surrogate mothers and be paid in return. So it actually, you know, it was a legitimate source of income for surrogates. Now that source doesn't exist. Secondly, the act reinforces traditional patriarchal norms which do not respect the work or the amount of work that a woman does. They you know, these laws, they clearly indicate that nothing can be paid in return of surrogacy, and no matter how altruistic it is, contenders say that there should be some commercial or monetary benefit also. So there is no economic value to women's work. That is a patriarchal traditional norm. The third one is that right of reproductive autonomy, whether a woman wants to be a surrogate or not, that is completely her choice. So that under Article 21, under right to privacy of Article 21 of the Constitution, so laws cannot be made regarding it. So there are a lot of debates going on around this, that Article 21 has been compromised with here. Then, in facilitating altruistic surrogacy among close relatives, there is a lot of exploitation that goes on. For example, in the case of donation of kidneys also, we saw that we wanted to ban, you know, commercial exploitation of people for donating their kidneys. Many kidneys were taken out of people's bodies against their will, or people who were in very poor situations actually went on to sell their kidneys, and there were rackets also that were, you know, exposed. So now kidneys can only be donated only by the close kin, but a lot of people you know, resort to all kind of ways, and still people are getting exploited. So the same thing can happen with women also too. They can be forced to act surrogate for a family, for another family, or for a couple in the family, and that exploitation will go unnoticed, or even most of the times unreported, because it is happening more in the kinship area, and that can be against the will of the surrogate. In the body paragraph 3, we'll talk about what are its impacts on society. So some of the arguments from broad societal point of view can be listed as follows. First one, altruistic surrogacy, it limits the number of options that a couple might have. So they might not be able to have a child forever if they do not have any relative, any female relative who's married and has a child of her own agreeing for, you know, having a baby, carrying a baby for that couple. So it limits their options. Secondly, you know, it leads to emotional complications. You know, if the surrogate mother is obviously looking at her child growing up and the child does not belong to her, so that emotional bond that exists between a mother and the child, that is there in case of surrogate mothers also. So they are not, you know, the emotional bond doesn't get cut because there is a commercial agreement being signed, there is a contract being signed. So that might lead to emotional complexity within the family itself. That is another argument. The third one is that the law permits surrogate children only to married couples, and it denies the fact that there can be singles who can be living for, who can be, you know, wanting to have surrogate children. There can be, you know, people who recognize themselves apart from men or women, or to put it very precisely, they do not recognize themselves as male or female particularly. So that group of people, surrogacy is a very viable option for them to expand their family, to stabilize their family, to complete their family. So that option has been curtailed by this particular act. And marital status, nationality, earlier foreigners were also seeking surrogate children from India. That has been curtailed. Marital status, singles cannot opt for surrogate children, that their rights. So this act, they say that it does not really pass the test of equality, but because it does not treat all citizens alike. The fourth point is that infertility proofs have to be given to the government to be able to have a surrogate child. And demanding such proofs of infertility is violation of your right to privacy under Article 21 again. So nobody can demand proofs of infertility or certificates of infertility from anybody. So that is a clear violation of right to privacy. Again, it is important to adhere with the act or adhere with the rules that are in place, but again we have to see what path we take to comply with a certain act. Then the last one is that the punishment mentioned in the law is very strict, very stringent. It calls for 10 years of imprisonment and 10 lakh of fine. So many doctors would not want to opt for it, because if doctors go against the law, or if they're not aware of the all the legal whether the couple seeking surrogate children has adhered to all the legalities, so they might be in trouble. So many medical experts will not take this as an option, and hence it denies the right to family, the right to have a stable family, a complete family, to many of the couples and many people, most of the citizens out there. So in the conclusion, see, in the question we have talked about what is surrogacy, what are the laws in India, what are the impacts on personal rights as an individual, as a surrogate mother, and next we've talked about what are the impacts on society. So if you notice that we've talked only about what are the loopholes of the law. In the conclusion, create a base that why this law exists, despite of its fallacies, despite of all the voids that are there, all the loopholes of this law, why does it exist? So let me take you there. So India recently had a booming industry that attracted people from all over the world for surrogacy, for having surrogate children. Investigations revealed that there were women who were forced into surrogacy. They were living under poor conditions because they were from poor families. So they were used for commercial purposes. Their wombs were used just for commercial purposes. They were not living in humane conditions, or not given the respect of bringing a life on earth, or bringing a life on the planet. So that respect, that kind of basic necessities, even they were not fulfilled. Were housed in terrible conditions in communal accommodations, prevented from seeing their own children, and not allowed to meet the families the babies were going to. So they were not allowed to see their own babies after reproduction, or not allowed to even contact the families the babies were going to. And hence the need of this particular act, Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021, was felt. And as of now, India is one of the very few countries that allow surrogacy. A very few countries all over the world actually allow surrogacy, and surrogacy is lawful here. Altruistic surrogacy is lawful, commercial surrogacy has been banned. But we need to see it this way, that surrogacy is allowed, it is not encouraged. It is not encouraged as the first way of reproduction. It is not encouraged as the first means that couples think of when they want to complete their family or have children. So it is not encouraged, exclamation mark, that needs to be focused upon, that something that is allowed is only for exceptional circumstances and exceptional couples. This does not have to become a culture. So surrogacy, it indeed raises fraught ethical questions about how we reproduce and move ahead as a society. So that is an open-ended discussion. You're leaving your answer with 2 lines which end up in open-ended discussion. So yes, surrogacy or surrogacy laws decide how the society perceives women, how the society moves forward. So that is your complete answer. Write your own viewpoint regarding this answer. You could have a different viewpoint. Have the confidence to express yourself and post it on our website rajayesacademy.com. Our team will evaluate your answer, our team will evaluate your viewpoints and respond back with their feedback. I'll see you tomorrow with another discussion right at 9 p.m. Stay tuned and all the best.